All right, what do we have here? Financing, anything with math, property ownership, and agency. All right, I think we can cover most of those. Most of those this evening. We'll start with financing and then we'll hit real estate calculations. As you guys know, I'm going to read the question. You're going to put an A, B, C, or D in the chat box. We'll discuss anything that we're widely disparate on. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Get my chat box moved around here. All right. Question number one, the obligation or promise to be personally liable for conditions in another person's contract is known as A, ostensible liability, B, assumption, C, assignment, or D, novation. All right, looks like we have B's in the chat, and that is going to be correct. So assumption is where you retain or you hold the liability. Novation is what is going to make it so that the liability does not. Novation is what happens on the other side when they're being released of liability. Assignment does not release from liability. All right, question number two. A partially amortized note that reduces part of the principal by the time the final payment is due is often called A, a balloon payment or balloon note, B, a conventional loan, C, a fully amortized loan, or D, a wraparound loan. All right, B's in the chat. And, oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. I had a little bit of a delay with my internet there, and I double-clicked past it. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back through vocabulary on that one. Question number three, payment of debt in regular periodic installments of principal and interest is referred to as a straight term loan, B, assumption of, C, amortized, or D, assignment of. All right, all A's in the chat. And that's going to be an amortized loan. So when you are paying in regular installments of interest and principal together, that is a fully amortized loan, or some level of amortization is taking place there. So a straight term loan involves interest only payments. So straight term or term loans are where you pay only the interest on the loan, and then the entire principal is due at the end of that term. Question number four, property is attached in order to A, compute cost replacement value, B, compute valuation for mortgage loan purposes, C, provide security for payment of debt or judgment, or D, to construct zoning boundary lines. All right, so I'm seeing some A's, some C's in the chat. So we're going to go, I think I've got more A's than C's. I don't know if those are from the last question or not, but C would have been correct here. Provide security for payment of a debt or judgment. Attachment is the court-ordered seizure of property to provide security for payment of debt. The term amortization. All right, we're getting a second shot at this one. The term amortization refers to A, a balloon payment at the end of a loan, B, payment of debt in regular periodic installments of principal and interest, C, interest-only payments over the life of a loan, or D, repayment of a loan by principal payment only. All right, lots of B's in there. You guys got that one. Crushed it the second time around. Well done. Question number 6, the taking of another person's rights and obligations in a pre-existing contract is known as A, assignment, B, assumption, C, novation, or D, ostensible liability. All right. We got an A, a B, and a C. A's, B's, and C's. So the taking of another person's rights and obligations in a pre-existing contract. I got 2 for A, 1 for C, 1 for B, 3 for A now. And it's going to be B. This is the same as the first question we had. Assumption involves taking or receiving another person's right. Assignment is giving the person's rights and interest under a contract to something else. Assignment without release of assignment does not allow for the release of liability, so the other person gets the rights to it, but you still have the liability. Novation is giving withdrawing the party's liability from a contract. Question number 7, the type of lender with the greatest percentage of assets invested in residential mortgages is a commercial bank, B, life insurance company, C, savings and loans, or D, a mutual savings bank. Right. The C's have it, and we go with C, and that is correct. Savings and loans are going to be the most invested. The premise of savings and loan is they take deposits and they make loans with them. So take savings, make loans, where other commercial banks are going to be buying and selling mortgages for purposes of liquidity. Question 8, the seizing of property by court order as security for debt or payment is known as A, attachment, B, capitalization, C, alienation, or D, encumbrance. Now, this is just the inverse of a previous question we had. Seizing a property by a court is attachment. Usually the property is attached to be sold at public auction to satisfy a judgment. And this would be, like a foreclosure. Sheriff's sale. How many acres are in the lot described as the northwest quarter or the southwest quarter or the southeast quarter? Is it A20, B2, C1, or D10? All right, the D's have it, and that's correct. Remember, there are 640 acres in a section, and so we simply divide by the denominators each time. So it's a quarter of the section gets you to 160, a quarter of that gets you to 40. A quarter of that gets you to 10. If these were halves or eighths or quarters, you just divide into 640. Question number 10, a lump sum payment of principal due at the end of a promissory note is known as the A, wraparound, B, the major, C, the fully amortized, or D, the balloon. Yep, this is going to be balloon. That is the lump sum due at the end or at the term of the loan. All right, I want to pop back in. Well, we're right here on some of these. So remember, amortization is going to be debt and principal and interest paid in equal installments. Trying to find the other one that we had. A partially amortized note that reduces part of the principal by the time the final payment is due. When you see final payment and partial amortization, that's going to just be a balloon payment or the balloon note. If it is interest only, that is going to be a term loan or straight term where you're only paying interest on the debt until the end of the life of the loan, then you owe the entire principal back. Those are irregular in real estate, or at least the real estate in Northeast Ohio. And instead, you see those sometimes with small business loans and things of that nature. So keep that in mind. Knowing those loans is important. All right, we also had anything with math. So we're going to go to real estate calculations. All right, question number 1. A property sale will close on March 31st, 2010. Taxes are $4,360 per year and are paid through the first half of 2009. Calculate the seller's share of taxes using a 365-day year, right? So property is selling March 31st. Taxes have been paid through June 30th of the prior year. So we need to figure out how much that seller is going to owe when it comes time to transfer the property. Is it A, 3272, B, 2750, C, 1107, or D, 3575? All righty. Got one A and one C. If anyone needs more time, just say more time. I'm happy to let you guys work these out, get some good reps in. All right. Who Who wants to take me through how they got C? Feel free to unmute and just kind of talk through, and I'll do it on the I'll do it on the calculator here on everybody's screen. All right, so Samantha takes 4360, divides it by 365, gets to 1195 a day. All right, so now we have 1195 times 90 days in the first quarter. So everyone gets really intimidated by the math problems because they're like, the numbers, I don't know. When do I add, subtract, divide? Oh, sorry, you're still going, Samantha. So you get to 1075.50. And so did you just choose C because it was closest to that? All right, so I'll go ahead and walk through this one. The first step that Samantha went with was correct, right? When you get a problem like this, it's really important that you understand the cost per day, right? So just, right off the rip, 4360 divided by 365, 1194 and a half or 1195, right? So now I know that because I'm calculating the cost of the taxes per day. And so from there, I'm going to tell you, don't take shortcuts. Don't do, don't say like, oh, okay, it's, 90 days or, try and just rough it out. Just literally count. And like I was saying, most people are particularly intimidated by these questions because of the math associated with them. But what I really want to encourage you to do is pay very close and strict attention to the words. So the taxes are paid through the first half of 2009, which means they are not paid in the back half of 2009. So there are July, August, September, October, November, and December taxes haven't been paid. And then since the property transfers on March 31st, January, February, March taxes haven't been paid. So there's those 9 months, specifically those 9 months, because we're using a 365-day year calendar, which if you don't use the right number of days for the specific months, you will not come out with the right answer. So we have 31 days in July, 31 in August, 30 in September. That's 92 days plus 31, 30, and 31 for October, November, and December. That's another 92 days. There's 184 days. Then I've got, as Sarah pointed out, 90 days from January to March. Now I got 274 days. So I have 11.945 dollars per day times 274 days that I owe taxes for. 3272.93. And if you do the problem that way, I saw Khadijah, you put in, hey, I could figure out this quarter and then back it out. You're going to be slightly off, right? If you just look at like, oh, what's the first quarter? That's a quarter of the year. I got three quarters. It's real simple. There are 181 days in the first half of the year. There are 184 days in the second half of the year. Read the problem very carefully. Work it forwards and backwards. Pencil out 31 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31. And do it that way. And then, you're going to be much more accurate. And you're not going to, don't rush through it. Don't start jamming numbers together. Oh, it's half a year. I'm going to divide by 2. Especially when it's a 365-day year, you need to know what specific months are owed for. All right, question number 2, which expense when a property owner has a mortgage is not generally deductible from their taxes? Is it A, their principal, B, their interest, C, their taxes, or D, the mortgage prepayment penalty? Which one is not generally deductible? Yeah, it's going to be your principal. Unfortunately, that is not allowed as a deduction. You can deduct your interest and your mortgage prepayment penalty. You can't deduct your taxes from your taxes, which would be nice because then you wouldn't have to pay taxes. A property is appraised at $150,000 and assessed for tax purposes at 35% of value. Calculate the semi-annual tax bill if the mill's total is 80. All right, I'm going to let you guys work this one. This is a multi-step problem. Very important that we know how to do these. You will get a question like this, or exactly like this, or using one of the multiple parts that we're going to go through here. So I'm going to give everybody the next 2 minutes to work through this one. And when you get an answer, get in the chat. If you get stumped, and only if you get stumped, don't just give up right out of the gate. If you get stumped, put a question mark in the chat box. All righty, what do we have? All right, A is the correct answer for the reasons that some of you put in the chat, because it's semi-annual. So let's take the 150,000 times 0.35 for the appraisal value, divided by 1,000 because we're talking about mills, times 80 because that's, times 80 because that's the mill count. And that's going to get us to 4,200, which, as we saw, is an answer on there. And if you're just waiting till you find an answer that you can find, or you see an answer that's an option, you're going to miss it. Then divide by 2 because it is semi-annual. Semi-annual meaning twice a year. Divide by 2, 2,100 is your answer. All right. Time for redemption on the tax question. Sale of property will close on July 7th. Taxes are $2,950 per year and are paid through the last half of 2009. Calculate the seller's share of taxes. Go ahead. I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to work through that. This one should be pretty straightforward. Looking at a 365-day year here. And that's all she wrote. Good luck. All right. And if you are absolutely stumped again, drop a question mark in the chat. One for A, one for C. Let's get a couple other answers in there, guys. I promise you, you want to be trying these questions here. Out there is not that you do not want to have to answer this one for the first time on the exam. Use this as an opportunity to try and work the problem, get it wrong. It's okay. All right, so what should I do first? You can unmute or put in the chat box. I don't care. Divide 2950 by 365. That's my cost per day. 808. Now, taxes are paid through the last half of 2009, which means that if the property trades on July 7th, then I need to calculate January, February, March, April, May, June, and the first 7 days of July. So if I know, because I'm a sharp, savvy guy, there's 181 days, January to June, I just do 181 plus 7 gets me to 188. So how many dollars is 188 days times that? 15, 19, 45. Bob's your uncle. That's all she wrote. So I tell you, these questions are intimidating because of the numbers, but seriously, this problem works very cleanly from front to back. All you have to do is take your time and know what it's asking. All right. Some millage, another millage opportunity. Properties appraised at $455,000 and assessed for tax purposes at 53% of value. Calculate the annual taxes if the mills are 65. So annual taxes, 65 mills. Take a minute, work through it. You guys were all over this one. So the first thing we're going to do here, property value, get it down to the assessed value. So times 0.53. Then we know we're working with mills. Second step is always to divide by 1,000. Final step is to multiply by the number of mills. Now, and these are annual taxes, so we don't have to divide by 2 here. We're not saying semi-annual. We don't have to multiply by 2. It's just straightforward, simple, straightforward, back to front. All right, piece of land is purchased for $234,000 and later sold for $256,300. What is the percentage of profit for this transaction? If you don't know how to do this one, put a question mark in the chat box. All right, you guys are close. Khadija, you actually said it right. It's what you made divided by what you paid, right? So what's what you made? Well, it's the sales price minus the purchase price, which is 256,300 minus 234,000. So profit, pure dollar profit on this is 22,300. I'm going to divide that by my investment of $234,000. That gets me a decimal, which I'm going to multiply by 100 to make a percent. So it's what you made, 22,300 divided by what you paid, 234,000, gets you 9.5%. All right, now this is a variant of the tax problem. I'm gonna see what you guys can do with this. I'm gonna put 3 minutes on the clock. The premium for a 2-year insurance coverage on a home is $850 if the policy was purchased on July 15th of 2009. Closing will take place on April 12th of 2010. What credit is due? Use a 365-day calendar. All right, gang, let's go ahead and get some answers in the chat here. What do you got? All right, a couple with C in there, and that's correct. So here's how you get that. It's the same as the other problems. It's simply a matter of knowing that it's a 2-year policy, not a 1-year policy. So you have to double the 365 to get to 730. So you got 850 divided by 730 is $1.16 a day. So then you do the same. It should go from July 15th to July 2011. That's 730 days. But the credit is due for everything after. So I calculate from July 15th all the way to April 12th, and then I subtract those number of days from 730. What's remaining is 460 days. Multiply that by $1.16, and you get 533.29. All right, a mortgage had a $43,000 loan at 7%. What would the new principal be after the third payment? If the monthly payment was $287. Go ahead and give this one a shot, guys. This again, an understanding mortgage and principal and interest and the erosion of the principal is going to be very important for the test. So go ahead and take a crack at this one. You will have something like this on your exam. All right. Who's got an answer? Don't forget, guys, I've already passed the exam and have a real estate license. So if you're not attempting these problems and believe that you're going to somehow learn through osmosis, you're probably not going to have a real estate license anytime soon. So I need you to be brave and put an answer in the chat box, and let's see where we stand so that we can invest more time and energy into the questions that you all need help with. It would be my distinct pleasure to get you what you need to help you pass the exam, but I can't if we're not all answering the questions. So $43,000 loan at 7% interest. So the first thing we're going to do is calculate our total interest due annually by just multiplying that by 0.07. That gets us to $3,010 in annual interest. We're going to divide that by 12 because our monthly payment is in months, so we need our interest in months. That means that $250.83 each month is going to interest. So the question wants to know, what is the remaining principal after 3 months payment? Well, we know our monthly payment is $287. So we take $287 and we subtract $250.83. That means that of that $287 payment, $250 is going to interest and $36.17 is going to principal. We're going to multiply that times 3 because we need 3 months, and we're going to get 108.51. So then we take our principal of $40,000 and we subtract the 108.51 that comes out after 3 months of payment. 42,891 rounds down. Question number 9. Which tax rate would be used if a property was assessed at $184,950 and generates $12,022 in taxes? If you don't know how to do this problem, put a question mark in the chat box. All right, so when we look at the answers, we see that it is going to be in mils, right? So we have an assessed value already of 184,950. Knowing that we're dealing with mils, we're going to divide that by 1,000. That's what you do with assessed values when you see mils. Divide by 1,000. That means each mil is worth $184.95. So now if we need to know how many mils the tax rate would be, we just take the total value of taxes at $12,022 and divide it by 184.95. How many times does 184.95 go into $12,022? The answer is A, 65 mils. Question number 10, taxes are based on an equalization factor of 1.25 of market value. This year, the school system collects 13 mils per $1 of assessed value. Calculate the annual school taxes for a property valued at $193,000. So equalization factor in your mind, you should be thinking the same as assessment rate. It is something that you multiply into the value of the home. Oh, shit. All right, gang. $193,000 property value has an equalization factor of 1.25. So we multiply by 1.25. It's the same as saying there's an assessment rate of 125%. Now we have $241,250 is the assessed value divided by 1,000 because we're talking about mills. When you talk about mills, you divide by 1,000. So $241.25 is the value of a mill. We've got 13 mills. 3136.25 is your correct answer. Got to spend some more time on the math, guys, and I would encourage you, and it is not like the avoiding it is not going to help. Look, I've been known to tell people you can pass the entire exam, not get a single math question right. You just got to be perfect elsewhere. I don't want you to go into the exam and feel like you have to be perfect elsewhere. The math problems, I promise you, the more you work them, the more comfortable you'll get. They are straightforward. There is no calculus involved here. It is order of operations. The most important thing you can do when you're working a math problem on the exam is stop and think, what exactly is the question asking for, right? How much is the value of unpaid taxes? Okay, now I can figure that out, right? Or what is the principal after the third payment? Okay, and then you start to figure out all the things that you need to know. And the answer pretty much, will unfold once you understand your order of operations. But keep working those. I promise you, they'll build your confidence, and that's the number one thing. It's just the math problems. Take your time, be confident. Don't rush through them. As many of you have heard me say many times on here, when you're taking the real estate exam, you are going to have you're going to be able to skip questions and come back to them, right? There's about 120 questions in 3 hours and 15 minutes, which means that you get about 90 seconds per question, right? I think that's what it works out to. And so with that, keep in mind, some questions are going to be a sentence, right? They're going to be a definition. They're going to be easy. Some questions are going to be big, long, wordy SOBs, and that's fine. You get to a big, long, wordy question, you get to a math question, skip it. Keep working through all the ones that you know right away. Get through those, and then you're going to have a pile of wordy questions and math questions left over. But you're also going to have more time to focus on the bigger questions because you're getting through everything you know, and so you get into a rhythm. Then you get to the questions that you don't know, and actually you don't feel like, oh, I'm on a 90-second clock because you've only got 40 questions left, but you've got 2 hours left, right? Or you got 40 questions left and you got an hour left. or an hour and a half left. And now you can take your time, pencil things out. And I promise you, you won't have 40 word and math questions. You'll be fine. So just focus on that, keep practicing those so that, and again, it's the rushing that will get you. When you rush through and you don't see that it says semi-annual, you do all the work that you would do to get the right answer, except for the last step, and you get the wrong answer. There's no partial credit on this exam. So take your time, read the questions carefully, and get it right. Okay, that's all for this week, gang. Be back here next week, next Tuesday, September 12th at 6 p.m. We'll do it again. All right. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.